how Brahmana Bharata, refuting the arguments of the king, was giving answers to king's inquiries. How, from the point of view of highest realization, this entire material world, though it is temporary, but it should be treated as unreal. Otherwise, if one starts treating it as real, there is a danger of becoming attached to this world. Because he is on the platform of the highest renunciation, he is trying to impart the same mood. So that's how Brahmana Bharata in the previous chapter trying to refute all the arguments made by king, who was telling that just like on the stove there is a fire, there is a pot, milk, rice. When there is fire, so through the pot and milk, the rice gets cooked. Similarly, when a person carries the palanquin, the person gets tired. So how can you say that person is not tired? So etc. He already refuted that. The king heard that, but king says that, so my dear sir, so what you said is right, but unfortunately I have not understood thoroughly. Please help me to realize this. How can you say that it is a person on the realization Brahmabhuta platform does not even experience any tiredness because the activity and its subsequent results have nothing to do with the soul. And the Brahmabhuta platform, a person is indifferent to the activities of the body. He is not getting tired. But king says that no, no, I am in the practical world. So I can't understand your words. Can you please help me to understand the words which you stated? Oh, master of yoga, you have said that the result of action seen in this world are simply based on convention and cannot be correctly said to be the highest truth. My mind is bewildered by this. So you said that whatever activity is happening around us, it's all in one sense has no meaning. Because in the ultimate reality, the soul has nothing to do with this material world. Soul has no connection with the material world. Soul has nothing to do with the all activity that are happening in this world. So, but I am not able to understand. I said that one becomes tired from work. You replied that though there appears to be actions like carrying the load and results like becoming tired, this is only a conventional appearance, and one cannot discern the conventional world at the truth simply by such examples. Since that's how the Brahmana Bharata replied. I mean, your words are like the conventional reality, conventional existence only, which has no ultimate reality. Since then, King says that since your words are bewildering, my mind has become bewildered by not clearly understanding your intentions. Please clarify my doubts. So, even if somebody comes to us and says that, so what you are doing are all meaningless, they are all illusory, they are not real, then we immediately our response is that, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What I am doing is illusory. What I am doing is meaningless. What I am doing is all like unreal. What do you mean by that? That will be our immediate reaction. The king also immediately reacting like that. So, in order to establish the proper understanding of that, how the material world and everything in the material world is simply illusory. In the 12th chapter explains that though the universe is false, Lord Krishna's six qualities, his abode and bhakti are true. The only thing that is true in this material world is Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Bhaktas, Krishna, and all those ingredients that are used in Krishna Bhakti, in Krishna service. Only these are true, nothing else is true. In one sense, other than Bhakti, everything that is being carried out in this world, they don't have any permanent reality. They don't have any permanent existence. But this is how he is going to establish in this chapter. This is a ideal principle. From our practical ground, we may not be able to appreciate this, but this is the ideal principle. This should be the goal one should attain, one should come to. Though according to our day-to-day interactions, we may accept, we have to accept the practical reality. But ultimately, one has to come to this reality, as Brahmana Bharata is going to indicate. Because his condition is that previously he was also very practical. So I need to protect the deer baby. Mother passed away and no one is there, no deer community is nearby. So the mother kind of interested me, this dear baby. I need to be compassionate upon that. So his compassion extended his stay in this world. This time he does not want to make any choice like that. So in one sense, his determination is coming out of his words, out of his mouth in the form of his words, saying that other than bhakti, nothing is real in this world. So there is no need to be so ambitious about doing other things. In the sense, so only bhakti, nothing else. That is the situation, that is the determination of Brahmana Bharata. That we have seen from his lifestyle also. His father was trying to teach him the Brahmanical rules and regulations like that, chanting Gayatri mantra and doing Achaman and keeping the body, mind and clean and etc. etc. But he never followed any of those things. For him, even those Brahmanical activities are also, he treated them as unreal, meaningless activities. Other than the meditation on the Lord, hearing about the Lord, speaking about the Lord, meditation on the Lord's pastimes, something like that. So now in this chapter, he is going to establish that how, other than bhakti, everything else is illusory. Only Bhagavan, devote bhakti, and bhaktas are only real in this world. That is going to establish in this chapter that we are going to see today. Brahmana uvacha ayam jano nama chalan prativyam ya parthiva parthivat kasya heto tasyapi chagryor adigulpajanga janurumary madyorashirodaramsha amshe jidari sibika chayasyam सौवीरराजेति अपदेश आस्ते यस्मिन् भवान् रोडनिजाभिमानो राजास्मि सिन्धुषु इति दुर्मदान्धः.
The self-realized Brahmana Jadabharata said, among the various material combinations and permutations, there are various forms and earthly transformations. For some reason, these move on the surface of the earth and are called palanquin carriers. Those material transformations which do not move are gross material objects like stones. In any case, the material body is made of earth and stone in the form of feet, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, torso, throat, and head. Upon the shoulders is the wooden palanquin, and within the palanquin is the so-called king of Suera. The body of the king is simply another transformation of earth. But within that body your lordship is situated, and falsely thinking that you are the king of the state of Suvera.
In the very first verse only, he kind of harshly speaks with the king. Matlab, kind of now he's accepting the role of a guru and he's chastising his disciple, something like that. He's calling him as Durmadanda, something like that. So let us see what he's trying to say. O king, this carrier, I am Jano. This carrier means he is talking about himself. This carrier, matlab the visible body, the visible external body of the Brahmana Bharata. This carrier, who is a transformation of the earth. Now he is telling that from the practical reality, how the world, in the worldly point of view, how do we deal? Yeah, we generally in our childhood we used to hear the proverb that they sometimes they say that they compare the body with the wood. They say that the wood has come from the earth and one day it will go into the earth only. Matlab, the human body, like a plant, a tree, comes from the earth and it transforms into wood and it is used in the different furniture in the home. And one day, when it has become, and it is worn out, again it emerges back into earth only, either buried or burned to ashes. Like that human body also, it is maintained by the earth, and after that it will be mixed back into the earth only. So like that, from that point of view, comparing that, this carrier, who is the transformation of the earth, the human body, which is the transformation of the earth, walks on the earth. Yes, we see that the body is walking on the earth for some reason. We don't know what is the reason, but is walking. Above his feet are ankles. What is walking? The 2 feet are walking. The 2 feet of this person's body, which is the transformation of the earth, initially the 2 feet are walking because the feet are walking. Above the feet, the ankles are walking. Above them, the calves are walking. Above them, the knees are walking. Above them, the thighs are walking. Above them, the waist is walking. Above them, the chest is walking. Above them, the neck is walking. And shoulders are walking. And above the shoulders is the wooden palanquin. The palanquin is also walking. And in that palanquin, there is a person called King of Savira, who, blinded by illusion, Durmada Anda, by false identity, Nija Abhimano, Ruda Nija Abhimano, not Nija Abhimana, Ruda Nija, by false entity, thinks that I am the king of Savira, Sidhu and Savira. So, in one sense, okay, you are talking about practical reality. I'll tell you what practical reality is all about. The practical reality is that this body, the transformation of the earth, and by somehow I don't know how it is happening. This body, which is the transformation of the earth, is walking. How it is walking? The feet are walking, and hence different body limbs are walking, and hence the palanquin is walking, and hence the person in the palanquin is walking, and who is also a transformation of the earth, but he is thinking himself as the king of Savira. So what kind of intelligence that person has, who is simply a transformation of the earth, but thinking himself as king of Savira? What kind of intelligence is that? So indirectly like that is scolding. Not having understood the answer given to defeat the king's statement, the king again asks, of course, that is the connection to the previous verses. Now Bharata addresses the king disrespectfully. O king, your king is also addressed as Parthiva, O transformation of the earth. Your conventional existence is insubstantial. I will prove that you're talking about conventional reality. In the conventional reality, I'm the king, this, that, I need to rule over, I need to follow the rules and regulations, establish dharma, all these things you are talking about. Ultimately, your conventional reality is all insubstantial. How? He is giving an example. Using another technique, Bharata now answers. This person, the carrier of the palanquin, that means this person means he is showing himself only. The finger is pointing to him and telling that this person, the carrier of your palanquin, is a transformation of the earth. He is moving for some reason. If he does not move, he is an inanimate object like a stone. This is the difference. So I don't know how he is moving, but he is moving. Since he is moving, we can say that he is an animate object. Otherwise, he is as good as inanimate rock. Then what is happening? How he is moving? His feet, a transformation of the earth, are situated on the earth. Above his feet are his ankles, calves, knees, thighs, waist, chest, neck, shoulders. Above the shoulders is the palanquin, which is also a transformation of wood, which is the transformation of the earth. In the palanquin, a transformation of earth, there is a person with the name King of Savira. He is seated there. Then he says that you think you are the king, but this is not actual. From all the elements, starting with earth and ending with the palanquin, to which of these does the fatigue from carrying it belongs? The person with the transformation of the earth sitting in the palanquin thinks that is the king, but that is not actual. What is actual? Now I'll ask you a question. Please tell me. From all elements, starting from earth के ऊपर पैर है. Above pair, there are ankles, calves, knees, thighs, waist, chest, neck, shoulders, and palanquin, and the person the palanquin. Among all these people, which of these does the fatigue from carrying it belong to? Fatigue belongs to whom? Is it for feet, ankles, knees, or thighs, waist, chest, neck, shoulders, or the to the palanquin, or the person sitting in the palanquin? Kisko? The king replies, I can see that the earth and palanquin are not tired. Of course, earth, what tiredness is there in the earth? No. Palanquin, there will be no tiredness. Therefore, the feet, etc., must be tired. So, here the problem. When he says earth is not tired, palanquin is not tired, which are the transformations of the earth, the feet is also transformation of the earth. When earth is not tired, how the feet becomes tired? But without the palanquin, do we not see fatigue in the limbs which do the carrying? So when he said that earth and palanquin are not tied, so currently this particular person, the transformation of the earth, walking by carrying the palanquin, and you are telling that by carrying the palanquin is getting tired. At other time, the same person is walking. Why that time is not getting tired? Without the palanquin, we don't see the fatigue in the body limbs which do the carrying now. Fatigue arises for the possessor of the limbs from carrying the palanquin. The king kind of says that no, there is someone called Jiva, someone called Atma, who is there inside the body. He becomes fatigued. He experiences fatigue by carrying the palanquin. But we cannot distinguish fatigue of the possessor of limbs who is different from the limbs. But the Brahmana Bharata says that, but how can we distinguish? So the fatigue is in the bodily limbs or in the Jivatma. What is the proof for the distinction? Who is exactly going through the fatigue? So in this chapter, there is a lot of analytical reasoning kind of nyaya. There is a lot of to and fro questioning and answering, something like that, in order to explain the understanding of this particular technical subject matter. So kindly be attentive. If you have any doubt, please let me know. So basically, the Brahmana Bharata wanted to prove that the practical world is insubstantial. Now let us see how he will prove. He has given an example which will cause confusion in the heart of the king, and then he goes one step ahead. Whether a possessor of limbs exists or not, one experiences the suffering of fatigue in being the carrier. So when the king said that, no, when the Brahmana Bharata said that, but we can't distinguish whether the fatigue belongs to the possessor or to the body. Then the king says, whether a possessor of limbs exists or not, one experiences the suffering of fatigue in being the carrier. So I don't know about Atma exists or not, but by carrying the palanquin, one feels fatigue, one becomes tired. That is what my understanding says. So for which the Brahmana Bharata replies that this is not the final conclusion, because one does not experience fatigue and carrying the ornaments of a young girl or and carrying one's young son. So now I'll give you another example that you say that by just by carrying the palanquin one experiences fatigue. I'll tell you another example. When a girl, especially during her marriage, she was decorated with all the different variety of ornaments. They also must be weighting some weight. Does she feel fatigue by carrying the ornaments which are heavy? Because marriage means there is a lot of decoration and also many things. Like the whole thing will be like heavy. Does she feel that she's carrying so many things? And even after they become parents, after the marriage, after they become parents, when the child is born, the child is also heavy. When they carry the child, do they feel fatigue by carrying the child? Does the mother or father, by carrying the child, do they feel fatigue? Thus, happiness and distress are experienced only by one's particular identity. It is based on one's identification, one experiences fatigue. A person who is carrying palanquin, thinking himself as a palanquin carrier, feels fatigue. But here, a bride wearing lot of jewelry, she becomes happy. Even though it is heavy, but she feels happy. And the same bride, when she becomes mother, carrying the child, she becomes more happy. She does not feel tired. Why? Previously, she has a tagline identity that now she is getting married, she is bride, now she has become mother. So that identity giving her happiness. Even though she is carrying heavy burden, she does not mind. But here the identity being called as the carrier, that identity itself is not a happy identity. The person will automatically feel tired. And now, oh, after telling this, he says that, and you, blind with false identity, thinking that I am the king, actually see nothing. This is your happiness. You think that you are highly knowledgeable and thinking that you are the king of the Sindhu and Savira province and you know Dharma, you can rule over everyone. But actually, you know nothing. You experience happiness only in ignorance. Those who have no false entity do not have this happiness and distress. The palanquin carrier identifying himself as a carrier experiences distress. The bride wearing the jewelry thinking that she is bride experiences happiness. The mother thinking that is a mother, though carrying the baby, feels happy. And you be the king, you the king, sitting in the palanquin, think that you are the king. These are all false identities. And all your happinesses and distresses are meaningless. They are useless. Because a person without false identity do not have any experience of happiness and distress. A person in Atma Sakshatkar is beyond the concept of happiness and distress. So all our happiness and misery in this world are connected to our identity. When a person is self-realized, he becomes no identityless, no material identities. He becomes Jivera Swarupai Krishna Nartidas. He will reassume his original spiritual identity. Then there won't be any material pleasure and material distress. So like that. So this is how he refutes King's arguments. Hare Krishna, you could follow this?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yes, Praveen. You're trying to understand.
No, trying to understand. I mean, he has given 2-3 examples. So basically, if our identity is good, it is recognized by people, we feel happy whatever we do. If our identity is not good, whatever good thing we do, but we feel miserable. That our happiness and misery are all connected to our current identity. That's how he is dismissing everything. Then he further continues. Sochyanimam tvam adhikashtadinam vishtya nighranan niranugrahosi janasya gopstasmi vikattamano na shobhase vruddha sabhasu drushtaha.
It is a fact, however. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Continue,
please go
Bhakti.
ahead.
It is a fact, however, that these innocent people carrying your palanquin without payment are certainly suffering due to this injustice. Their condition is very lamentable because you have forcibly engaged them in carrying a palanquin. This proves that you are cruel and unkind. Yet, due to false prestige, you were thinking that you were protecting the citizens. This is ludicrous. You were such a fool that you could not have been adored as a great man in an assembly of persons advanced in knowledge.
Here also, he chastised the king further. He said that seizing by force these wretched, suffering people, you are without mercy. You are proudly boasting that you are the protector of the people, but simply being impudent, you are not glorious in the assembly of the wise. Now he says that you are thinking you are king of Sindhu and Savira, you are protecting everyone. What kind of protection you are offering? A person is walking on the roadside and is forced to carry the palanquin. I think the same thing is happening with others also. What kind of king are you? You are simply exploiting the people, and none of the assembly of wise people ever glorify you for what you have done. Everyone will criticize you for what you have done. So, like that, history. King has said, 5:23, that ruling of the citizens was dharma, even without knowledge. Ruling over the citizens by engaging them forcibly without mercy is not dharma but adharma. So here, Brahma Bharata is saying that ruling over the citizens by engaging them forcibly without mercy is not at all dharma but adharma. You proudly think that I am the servant of Achyuta. I am an inquirer about the highest truth. You think that I am the representative of Supreme Lord, being a king, and I am knowledgeable, and you are my guru. I am inquiring you about Atma. These are all bogus, useless. Like that, he is chastising. If you think that you are servant of Achyuta, you will not engage people by forcefully in your service. Something like that. And then he further continues this same analogy. How this body, the transformation of the earth, that particular thing he continues and tries to establish the conventional reality is unreal. Only the Supreme Lord is the reality. Supreme Lord is devotees, is bhakti, and all the articles that can be used in bhakti, only they are real. Rest all will be unreal. यदाक्षितावेव चराचरस्य विदामनिष्णं प्रभवं च नित्यम् तन्नामतोऽन्यद्व्यवहारमूलम् निरूप्यतां सत् क्रिययानुमेयम्.
All of us on the surface of the globe are living entities in different forms. Some of us are moving and some not moving. All of us come into existence, remain for some time, and are annihilated when the body is again mingled with the earth. We are all simply different transformations of the earth. Different bodies and capacities are simply transformations of the earth that exist in name only, for everything grows out of the earth, and when everything is annihilated, it again mingles with the earth. In other words, we are but dust, and we shall but be dust. Everyone can consider this point.
The same analogy is extending further. Since we see the constant appearance and disappearance of moving and non-moving beings on the earth, it should be concluded that the cause of the conventional world, inferred by your reference to action, is earth alone, and anything else appears distinct because of name only. What we see, yeah, things are coming out of earth and going into the earth, coming out of earth, going into the earth, and you are talking about this is the conventional reality. But according to me, your conventional reality is nothing but a transformation of the earth. But if you say that, no, no, how can you say that is transformation of the earth? Here we have so many distinctions. Is Brahmana, is Kshatriya, is Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grasta, Vanapasa, Sannyasi, Karma, Jnana, Yoga, this action, that action. So many distinctions are there, you may say. Child, youth, adult, old, something like that. But all these are simply name only. Externally, you may call it a different name. But everything is nothing but transformation of the earth, whether it is people or objects. Conventional reality, nothing but earth only. We may call it with different names according to our convention. That's all. Your statement that the practical conventional world is insubstantial is not true, since one see that even the liberated souls without false identity experience happiness and distress from prarabdha karma. And since you cannot deny that, you experience fatigue from carrying the load. The king is telling. So how can you say that? Even a liberated person also experiences happiness and distress. That is the practical reality of this world. And you deny that you experience fatigue from carrying the load, and you say that you do not experience fatigue. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? For which this verse is spoken. True, there remains a trace of happiness and distress for the liberated souls like me by destruction of the cause of illusion. There remains a trace of happiness and distress for the liberated souls like me by destruction of the cause of illusion. When a person awakens, though conscious that this dream of a snake is unreal, for a short time he will still shakes in fear, though it is insignificant. So my condition, I am liberated, but I am just liberated. So my condition is like a person who just got up from a dream. A person who sees a snake or tiger in the dream is afraid. As soon as he gets out of the dream also, comes out of the dream also, though apparently he sees around, it is the what he was going through is only dream. There is no real snake or no real tiger. Nothing is chasing him. He will understand that that is illusion. But still, there is a trace of fear because just he came out of the dream. That means he says that have been just liberated. I still there's a trace of connection from the previous experience. So it may appear to me, it may appear to you that I still experience the fatigue, happiness and misery, etc. That is because the experience of the dream is still lingering in the mind. Though I understand that is illusory, but still the experience is lingering. So my body is shivering still. So it is like that.
Hare Krishna.
Ah,
Prabhuji, in that example, what Jad Bharata is giving, and we discussed two verses prior, that body is just a lump of earth. So
mm,
that will not experience the fatigue.
mm.
And uh, even though means it said in that soul is there or not, but means that fatigue will be there. So fatigue is experience where exactly in consciousness.
Or that will not that see. That's what we are telling now. Fatigue is experienced in identity, not in consciousness. The person carrying the palanquin feeling tired, but the bride carrying the golden ornament is not feeling tired. The mother carrying the child is not feeling tired.
Correct. So this
All three people are
understanding,
carrying the weight only.
yeah.
Why someone is happy, why someone is not happy?
So it what we are carrying and for what we are carrying, that understanding will exist in the mind and mind or consciousness. Where exactly? So the because of what? Because of mind or because of consciousness, one feels tired.
No, no. Because of identity, one feels tired.
No, but that identity exists at which plane, Prabhuji? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Ahankara.
Okay, so the false ego level there, the understanding will lie. That is why, due to the false ego, one will experience the fatigue.
Yeah.
That's what.
It is a cumulative effect. We cannot say like one, we cannot attribute to one. It is the cumulative effect of the subtle body.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you.
So he continues further. However, one who has not awoken sees the dream snake as real. The person who is still in the dream, he sees the snake as real and is still fearful. This is like your experience of conventional reality. You are still in the dream. So anyway, you will experience fear. I have just woken up from the dream. I am just liberated. I understand that it is illusory, but I still have the traces of the dream. That's why my body is shaking. That's why you may think that I am feeling tiredness. But reality, by logic, I will now show the illusory nature of the conventional world that is explained in the next verse. So, because you are still in the dream and you are thinking the dream is true, I just came out of the dream. I know the dream is illusory, but still, I still carry some traces of dream experiences. That's why apparently you may see that I am tired, but in the core of the heart, I understand that that is illusory, that is not real. So it is like that. We know that the living beings arise from the earth and disappear into the earth. They arise from the earth means our body is maintained from the food grains given by the earth. It is like that. Even when we are in the womb of a mother, our body is maintained or grown up by the food eaten by the mother, which is coming from the earth only. So, in one sense, or in one or one sense, in all sense, our body is born, maintained by earth, and after that, it will again go back to earth only. So, in that sense. Therefore, the cause of the conventional world, inferred from actions such as carrying water, should be discerned as transformations of the earth only, being differences in name only. You can understand this if your sense of logic is functioning. So basically, ultimately, he's telling that every activity that we do, somebody may be carrying the palanquin, somebody else may be carrying the water, somebody else may be carrying golden ornament, somebody may be carrying small child, but all these things are simply the activities carried by the body, which is the transformation of the earth. That means the earth only in action. Only the earth is in action, nothing else. Only a person with good logic, good sense of logic can understand this. Like the distilling. The Shruti says, Vacharambanam vikaro namadhyayam mrittiketi eva satyam. The transformations of the earth are simply words or names. Earth alone is true. We may say that this is the home, this is vehicle, and this is computer, this is laptop, this is mobile, this is water bottle, this is bag, this is book, this is notebook. All these are simply names only. In truth, everything is a transformation of earth. Nothing is different from earth, like that it says. So basically, he's telling that you are talking about conventional reality in which you are king, this, that. These are all names only. Ultimately, everything is nothing but the transformation of the earth only. It is the earth which is in action, not you, like that. So he further continues. एवं निरुक्तं क्षितिशब्दवृत्तम् असन्निधानात् परमाणवो यो अविद्यया मनसा कल्पितास्ते येषां समूहेन कृतो विशेषः.
One may say that varieties arise from the planet Earth itself. However, although the universe may temporarily appear to be the truth, it ultimately has no real existence. The Earth was originally created by a combination of atomic particles but these particles are impermanent. Actually, the atom is not the cause of the universe, although some philosophers think so. It is not a fact that varieties found in this material world simply result from atomic juxtaposition or combination.
Here he goes one step ahead. So now he was telling that earth is the ultimate truth. He goes one step ahead. He says that what is known by the word earth, Kshiti Shabda Vruttam, that also exists in name only. Because earth is resolved into atomic particles. Earth by its constitution is nothing but the combination of dust particles. And a dust particle is a combination of so many paramanus. So ultimately, the visible earth, which is there in front of us in the form of human body, animal, plant, vehicle, home, these are all nothing but the combination of set of paramanus, which are imagined by the mind out of ignorance. Out of their combination, a particular object is made. But we cannot really say that what is the paramanu because we can't see the paramanu. We may say that every object that we see is the combination of paramanus, but we can't see the paramanu. So something which we can't see, how can we talk about that? Earth at least is real. The king asks, at least the earth is real. The Brahmana says that the word earth exists as a name only. Why? Because it is caused by the atomic particles, which are the cause of earth. Even earth also is nothing but the combination of atomic particles. Earth cannot exist except for these particles. Then particles are real, the king says. Then the particles must be real. These particles have been imagined by the mind out of ignorance by the philosophers in order to explain the effects of the world we perceive. Therefore, particles are also unreal. So, Vaisheshika is the theory of Paramanu Vada. In Vaisheshika, they say that ultimately everything is nothing but the combination of Paramanus. Everything has begun with Paramanu and everything will end in Paramanu. Something like that. So, disregarding Vaisheshika, there comes Nyaya. Nyaya says that everything by logic. So, if Paramanu is real, show me Paramanu. Show me the existence of Paramanu. Show me the transformation of Paramanu. Since you cannot show the Paramanu, since you cannot show the transformation of the Paramanu, I am not really sure whether Paramanu really exists or not. Like that, Nyaya disputes with Vaisheshika and goes one step ahead. Like that. The reason for this conception is described. A particular object, such as Earth, is made out of the totality of particles. One should accept the total only rather than the parts. What is visible, whose transformations can be perceived, should be accepted as real. It may be the combination of particles, but since we can't see the particles, since we can't see the transformations of the particles, so don't talk about the particles as the ultimate reality. So let us be happy with the earth being real, which is the combination of particles. So therefore, one should accept the totality only rather than the individual parts which we can't see. Like that. So in one sense, here is also disputing with the Vaisheshika philosophers also, our Brahmana Bharata. So in one sense, he's telling that if you say something is real, he refutes that. If you say I am the king real, it is not real. It is only name. If you say my body is real, it is nothing but the combination of earth. If you say earth is real, earth is nothing but the combination of paramanus. Is Paramanu is real? We can't see it. I'm not sure whether I can say it as real or not. Then what is real? There is nothing real. But what you say the practical world is nothing but the totality of the particles. That is what we can see, that is what we can perceive being transformed, etc. etc. So let us. But Earth is not ultimate reality, but Earth is there. We can see it, we can feel it, we can see the transformations. So in that way, something like that. So that's how he is trying to negate the permanent existence to anything in this material world. Neither Paramanu is permanently real, nor Earth is permanently real, nor the human body, nor the identity of the king. None of these things are permanently real. So in that way. So finally he says that Evam Krisham Stulamanur Bruhadyat Asasya Sajjeevamajivamanyat Dravyasvabhavasya Kala Karma Dravyasvabhavashaya Karma Namna Jayavehi Kritam Dvitiyam. Please read the translation.
Since this universe has no real ultimate existence, the things within it, shortness, differences, grossness, skinniness, smallness, bigness, result, cause, living symptoms, and materials, are all imagined. They are all pots made of the same substance, earth, but they are named differently. The differences are characterized by the substance, nature, predisposition, time, and activity. You should know that all these are simply mechanical manifestations created by material nature.
Now he is going to tell that the combination of Paramanus is earth, and earth transforms into so many different forms, and every form is being called with different name. So that is going to indicate now. Know that everything is made by Maya, characterized by substance, nature. Whatever we see at the transformation of the earth is all a play of Maya Devi, characterized by substance, nature, mind, time, and karma. We say when we see things, it is substance. We say when we see people in a particular way they behave, we say it is nature. We say it is mind, it is time, it is karma. With the divisions of fine and very fine. Some of them are small and very small. Some of them are big and very big. Some of them are cause, some of them are effect. Some of them are conscious, some of them are unconscious. Some of them are skinny, some of them are fat. So like that, we give so many attributes based on our perception. One should know that everything is made up of Maya, characterized by substance, nature, mind, time, or karma, are distinct qualities like fine, very fine, big, and very big, cause and effect, objects with consciousness and objects with without consciousness. So something like that. Basically says that everything that is happening around us is nothing but a play of Maya. So when the king asks, is something real? Does something really exist? He says that whatever we see is nothing but a play of Maya. Then the next question is, what is real then? If everything, whatever we see, the practical world is all play of Maya, then what is real? The real is Bhakti and Bhagavan and all the ingredients that are employed in the Bhakti. That is real. That he will say in the next section. Is it okay? All of you are able to follow?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hmm. So in this verse, in the 11th verse, he kind of gives a hint and explains how Bhakti and Bhagavan are only the eternal reality and ultimate truth, and other things are all not the eternal reality. that he will indicate here. Jnanam vishuddham paramarthamekam anantaram tu abahir brahma satyam pratyak prashantam bhagavad shabda sanyam yadvasudevam kavayo vadanti.
What then is ultimate truth? The answer is that non-dual knowledge is the ultimate truth. It is devoid of the contamination of material qualities. It gives us liberation. It is the one without a second, all pervading and beyond imagination. The first realization of that knowledge is Brahman. Then Paramatma, the Supersoul, is realized by the yogis who try to see him without grievance. This is the second stage of realization. Finally, full realization of the same supreme knowledge is realized in the Supreme Person. All learned scholars describe the Supreme Person as Vasudeva, the cause of Brahman, Paramatma, and others.
Yeah, he says, then what is the ultimate reality? Bhagavan. The wise say that the truth is beyond the gunas. Vishuddham contains everything including liberation. Paramartham. It is one without a second. Ekam. It is all pervading. Anantaram tu abahi. And it is known as Brahman. It is also known as Paramatma. It is also known as Bhagavan. And finally is called as Vasudeva. What is ultimate reality? Vasudeva, who is called as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, who is all pervading, who is one without a second, who includes everything, including liberation, who is be situated beyond the gunas, and he is the ultimate truth. Then what is truth? The previously mentioned truth, Tattva, is said to be that which is known by the authority of the scriptures, is the ultimate truth. This has been mentioned in the first canto as Tattvam Vadanti Tattva Tattvavidas Tattvam Ejnanam Advayam. Tattvam Vadanti Tattvavidas Tattvam Ejnanam Advayam. So Advayajnana is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Knowledge is truth, which is beyond the gunas. So Vishuddha means the knowledge is truth, which is beyond the gunas. Vishuddha, pure jnana, is the ultimate reality beyond the gunas. It is supreme, from which arises liberation. It is without a second. It is devoid of internal and external. That means it pervades everywhere. This knowledge is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahman means impersonal aspect worshipped by the jnanis, and Paramatma is worshipped by the yogis. So basically, Jnana Advayam, from that point of view, it is taken as Advaya Jnana is the ultimate reality. What is that Advaya Jnana? It is the knowledge which is situated beyond the three gunas. It is supreme, from which liberation comes. So knowledge means the knowledge about the absolute truth leads to liberation. What was that? Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samastarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktin labate varam. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. It is by bhakti one understands about absolute truth. As a result of tato mam tatoto jnatva vishate tadantaram. With the knowledge of the understanding of the Supreme Lord, one attains liberation. That means knowledge which gives liberation is the ultimate reality. So there in the spiritual context, the knowledge and absolute truth, the knowledge about absolute truth and absolute truth are non-dual. They are same. So like that. So the various attributes that are used for this absolute truth are kind of explained. Prashantam means in which the jiva is extinguished. That means Bhoktara Magnasapasam Sarvaloka Maheshram Suhrudam Sarvabhutanam Jnatwamam Shanti Mruchati. Shanti or Prashanti means attaining liberation, having entered into absolute reality, the spiritual world. So it is like that. The material identification of the jiva is extinguished. So it means Bhagavan is the aspect worshipped by the devotees. They say that these three forms are included in Lord Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, with the most complete form. Lord Krishna includes all the three forms. So how Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan, who are the three aspects of Vasudeva, is the ultimate reality. There are some references which Prabhupada quotes in Bhagavad Gita many places, especially Aham Sarvasya Prabho Matam Sarvam Pravartate. In that verse, Prabhupada quotes many references. So some of such references are shown here. He is called Purnam Brahma Sanatana. Who is called Purna Brahma Sanatana? Lord Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, that is Lord Krishna, is called Purna Brahma Sanatana by Brahma in the 10th canto. Actually, this is 10:14, this is not 24. Aho Bhagyam Nandagopa Vrachakasam En Mitram Paramanandam Purnam Brahma Sanatana. So, what is the great fortune of these Vrajavasis? The Purna Brahma, the Sanatana Brahma has become their friend and relative. This is 10:14-32. This is from 14th chapter Brahma's prayers. Krishnaya Paramatmane. Krishna is Lord Krishna is Paramatma. This is 10:6-36. Tatastu Bhagavan Krishna. Lord Krishna is Bhagavan. 10:8-27. In the Gita, he calls himself the basis of Brahman. Brahmanui Patishtaham. I am the basis of Brahman. He also describes himself as Paramatma. Vishtabhyaham idam Krishnam ekam shena sito jagat. I manifest myself in my partial expansion in this universe from which everything manifests. That is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. He also says, Vasudeve Bhagavat Bhagavantam. Among the forms of Bhagavan, I am Vasudeva. 11, 26 and 29. These are all different references indicating that it is Lord Krishna who is the Purna Bhagavan, who expands as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. He manifests himself in three features. The word Bhaga in Bhagavan means Aishwarya or Lordship, which implies those who are controlled by the Lord, means the devotees in the Lord's abode. They are also eternal. Just like the Lord is ultimate reality, the Lord who is called as Bhagavan, in that Bhagavan, the word Bhaga means the Aishwarya or Lordship. The Bhaga indicates the Lord's Lordship. Lordship upon whom? Lordship upon the Vaikuntha Vasis. Since Bhagavan includes Bhaga, which means Lordship, the Lordship is also ultimate reality. And upon whom that Lordship is there? The Lordship is there upon the devotees, upon the Vaikuntha Vasis. So Vaikuntha Vasis is also ultimate reality. How can the ultimately real Lord have a lordship a lordship over something which is material, which is temporary? He cannot. He will also, because just like the Lord is ultimate reality existing eternally, his lordship also exists ultimate eternal for the eternity. So then upon whom the lordship can be existed? The lordship also exists upon someone who is ultimately real. If the Vaikuntha Vasis are not real, Lord's lordship upon the Vaikuntha Vasis also are not real. Then Bhaga is not real. Then Bhagavan is also not real. Then the Lord is not ultimate real. So in that way, just like the Lord is absolute reality, Lord's devotees in Vaikuntha are also absolute reality. They are eternal. Then going one step ahead, whether Lord's devotees are in the Vaikuntha or in the material world, wherever they may be, they are real. The paraphernalia which is used to worship the Lord in the Vaikuntha is real. Similarly, the same paraphernalia which is used to worship the Lord in the material world is also real. So like that, we can extend the analogy. Because Lord is real, Bhagavan is real, Bhaga is real. Bhaga means Lordship, that is also real. So upon whom that Lordship is expressed, that is also real. That means the devotees are real, their bhakti is real, their bhakti activities are real. The ingredients used in that bhakti activity, they are also real. Like that, what are all the different objects that can be real is indicated in this analogy. The devotees and the abode of the Lord are both eternal truth. Shraddha must sevayan tu nirguna. Faith in my devotional service is purely transcendental. So devotees' faith in bhakti is also transcendental. Their bhakti activities are also transcendental. Man niketanam tu nirgunam. Residence in a place where I reside is transcendental. Anything related to bhakti is said to be eternal truth as well. Thus, everything in relation to bhakti are eternal. Everything beyond bhakti are temporary or unreal. The intention of this section is as follows. O king, you have spoken of the material world made up of Maya, proven by the senses, which has transformations which are eternal, sometimes visible and sometimes invisible. You must accept the temporary nature of these material things, since they are limited by time and place, according to your own opinion. So, my dear king, you are telling that the conventional reality we should accept as real, but according to me, only the absolute reality, the real, not the conventional reality. But since spiritual objects are not limited by time and place, the material objects and material activities are limited by time and place. You being the king is only for certain time. I being the palanquin carrier is only for certain time. It does not exist ultimately. But on the other hand, the spiritual objects are not limited by time and place, being completely different. They are not part of the material conventional world. You repeatedly talk of the conventional world. Other philosophers say this conventional world is false. The Vaisheshikas, many people, they say that this conventional world is also false. This view has also been stated. However, even these persons do not object to the conclusion of the scriptures stated in the present verse. Even those people who are saying this conventional world is false, but they cannot say that absolute truth is false. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, no one can say it is false. So, like that. So, this is how the king is trying to establish what is the ultimate reality. It has been said that bhakti means engaging the senses and body for Lord Krishna. The Lord had said that bhakti is beyond the gunas. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya hi udahritam. In the teachings of Lord Kapila told that bhakti and bhakti activities are nirguna. They are beyond three gunas. So it is like that. So this is how he is trying to establish that how the material world around us, though it is accepted as conventional reality, it is not the ultimate reality. Because some people say it is real, some people say it is illusory. So it is not absolute reality. But no one can say the absolute truth is illusory. The absolute truth who manifests in three features, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, cannot be denied as ultimate reality. Thus, only that is ultimate reality. Everything else is not. So it is like that. So this is how he is kind of establishing what are all our ultimate realities and what is not ultimate reality. Hare Krishna, able to follow?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Then he says that when it comes to bhakti, even an outcast who executes bhakti becomes spiritual instantly. The potency of bhakti is like that. Since it is connected to Supreme Lord, it is permanent reality. Even a completely ignorant person of this world becomes the most significant. Even the outcast who chant the name of the Lord once immediately gives up his body. Though his body is still visible, he gives up the body related to prarabdha karma, though this is not seen. One day before he is called as a dog eater, but after taking on to bhakti, he will be called as a Vaishnava. After becoming a devotee, a person should not be called as a dog eater again. Dog eater means being born in the family of dog eater. He has not eaten dog, but his family members are eating dog. But he has become a devotee, and he will never be called as a dog eater, or any other identity. He is simply called as Vaishnava. That is the glory of bhakti. Then the devotee attains Amrutatvam, absence of the symptoms of death, and is qualified for his permanent position. This means that he remains to serve me wherever I am. This is still explaining 11:29:34, something like that. So basically, when a devotee begins bhakti, he becomes nirguna. So that is understanding. But means that is the eternal reality of the bhakti. All the false material objects which exist in this world lose their material quality by association with bhakti. Though we may say that this conventional reality is all not real, it is all illusory, as many philosophers say, but everything can be made real by employing it in the service of the Supreme Lord. The Lord makes those objects the highest truth, favorable to the desires of his devotee. What is impossible for the inconceivable power of the Supreme Lord? Even though the illusory material world can be made permanent reality if it is used in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is the potency of Bhakti and Bhagavan. The statements, service to me is beyond the gunas and my abode is beyond the gunas, are true. Even Shankaracharya accepts the same from Mahabharata. How? Achintya kaluye bhava natam starkena yojayet. Prakritibhya param yasya estu tadachintasya lakshanam. Inconceivable states are not subject to material argumentation. The quality in inconceivability is that it is beyond the material realm. When something is beyond our perception, something is inconceivable, that is beyond the purview of three modes. That cannot be understood by our material reasoning and logic. So, like that. That is the lakshana of transcendence. Same way, but the potency of bhakti and Bhagavan cannot be understood by our material reasoning and logic. By the word bhava in the plural, one should not think that the state of oneness has been discarded, since all these states are one in the Lord. Thus, everything is clear. So, everything becomes spiritual, everything becomes one with the Lord. That means everything becomes spiritual. So, in that way, even the material world made up of three gunas becomes nirguna when it is employed in the service of the Supreme Lord. Only the things connected to Supreme Lord and the Supreme Lord are eternal reality, and everything else is not. So, in that way. So, this is how he is trying to showcase that okay, the Supreme Lord is ultimate reality, his devotees are ultimate reality, his bhakti is ultimate reality, and whatever employed in bhakti is ultimate reality. Even this temporary conventional material world also can be made ultimate reality by engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord. That's how he is explaining. Because Lord's service takes place in Vaikuntha. If Lord is being served here in this material world, this material world should be called as Vaikuntha. It cannot be anymore a temporary, illusory material world. That is understanding. Okay, you could follow.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Any questions? Hare Krishna. So if there are no questions, one cannot attain the Lord without bhakti, attained by the mercy of devotees. This is explained in 2 verses. Okay, bhakti is real, devotees are real, all the ingredients used in bhakti are real, but how to get bhakti? Bhakti is obtained by the mercy of devotees. That will be mentioned in the next 2 verses. Raho gunaita tapasa nayati na jaya nirvapanad gruhadva na chandasanaiva jalagni suryair vina mahatpadarajo abhishekam. Please read the translation.
Dear
My
King
dear King,
Rahugana. Okay, continue, Mataji.
my dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize absolute truth. One cannot realize absolute truth simply by observing celibacy brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of household life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyasa, or undergoing severe penance in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee.
So, without bathing in the dust from the feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the Lord. Through concentration of the mind, tapasa, by the performance of sacrifice, ijjaya, distributing food, nirvapanad, building shelters for the destitute, grihadva, that means constructing the residential quarters in the pilgrimage places, studying the Vedas, Chandasa, or performing austerities in the water, fire of the sun, Jala, Agni, Surya. Just by doing all these things, one does not get Bhakti and Bhagavan. Bhakti and Bhagavan comes only when we take shelter of a Guru. Adav Guru Padashraya. That is the only way. O King Rahugana, the three types of realization just mentioned above, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, cannot be attained by tapasya or other methods. Tapas means concentration of the mind. Ijja means Vedic activities such as sacrifices. Nirvapanat means giving food in charity. Grihad means establishing shelters for helping others. Chandasa means by study of the Vedas. Jalagni Surya means by performing studies involving water, fire, and sun. By doing all these dry things, one cannot get bhakti. Bhakti can be obtained by taking shelter of a bhakta. How? By bathing in the dust from the feet of great devotees. Mahatpada Rajo Abhishekam. So like that. So who is that devotee? Whose dust, with whose dust we should be bathed? That will be mentioned in the next verse. यदोत्तमश्लोकगुणानुवादा प्रस्तूयते ग्राम्यकथा विघाता निसेव्यमानोऽनुदिनं विमुक्षोर्मतिं सतिं यच्छति वासुदेवे.
Who are the pure devotees mentioned here? In an assembly of pure devotees, there is no question of discussing material subjects like politics and sociology. In an assembly of pure devotees, there is discussion only of the qualities, forms, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is praised and worshipped with full attention. In the association of pure devotees, by constantly hearing such topics respectfully, even a person who wants to merge into the existence of the Absolute Truth abandons this idea and gradually becomes attached to the service of Vasudeva.
So who is a devotee? According to him, a devotee is a one who does not talk about the conventional reality. Instead, he always talks about the absolute reality. What is that? Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Where there are great devotees, talks concerning the qualities of the Lord, which destroy material topics, are sung, heard constantly, even by those discerning liberation, Mumukshur. Those topics produce pure thoughts of Vasudeva. Who are the devotees? Where they only hear and talk about the Supreme Lord's wonderful qualities, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, nothing more than that, like that. Where one bathes in the dust of their feet, or where there are great devotees, The qualities of the Lord, such as his affectionate nature, are repeatedly glorified. Even those desiring liberation listen. Even the mukshur, even those desiring Sahajya Mukti also listen to Krishna Katha because Krishna Katha is so attractive. Atma Ramascha Munaya Nirganta Pivarukrame Kurvanti Hetukim Bhakti Nittam Bhuta Guno Hari. These talks produce pure thoughts of Lord Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, without the desire for liberation. Even a mumukshu, a mokshakami, hears Krishna's qualities, he gives up his desire for moksha and begins Krishna Bhakti. That is the greatness of Krishna's qualities. Like that. So, having heard this, then Rahugana falls flat again at his feet. Then he asks, please tell me, who are you? Who are you? So merciful to give teachings and knowledge to a great offender like me. Then Brahmana Bharata reveals his identity and his flashback. In the next three shlokas, his flashback is revealed. Aham pura Bharata nama raja vimukta dushta shruta sanga bandha आराधनं भगवता इहमानो मृगो भवं मृगसंगात् दतार्ता.
In a previous birth, I was known as Maharaj Bharat. I attained perfection by becoming completely detached from material activities though through direct experience, and through indirect experience I received understanding from the Vedas. I was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, but due to my misfortune, I became very affectionate to a small deer, so much so that I neglected my spiritual duties. Due to my deep affection for the deer, in my next life I had to accept the body of a deer.
Previously, I was a king named Bharata, who was free of attachment to all material dealings, seen or heard. I worship, matlab, I was the king Bharata, and after executing all my duties, I have become indifferent to everything. I have taken to Vanaprastha, came to forest, and there I worship the Supreme Lord. But there in the forest, from the association with a deer, I was thwarted in my goal and became a deer. Like that. I was freed from the bondage of attachment to dealings of the world, seen and heard. By misfortune, I became inattentive. As a king, I was dealing with the world, everything fine. But at a proper time, with a due renunciation, I took on to Vanaprastha order, came to forest. There I became attached to deer, and I became inattentive to my bhakti. Then what happened? As a result of that, I became a deer after giving by my body. Instead of going back to Godhead, I became a deer. Then what did I do? Samam Shmutir Mrugadehi Pivira Mrugadehi Pivira Krishna Rachana Prabhava No Jahati Ato Aham Jana Sangada Sango Vishankamano Vivrutas Charami.
My dear heroic king, due to my past sincere service to the Lord, I could remember everything of my past life, even while in the body of a deer. Because I am aware of the fall down, in my past life, I always keep myself separate from the association of ordinary men. Being afraid of their bad, materialistic association, I wander alone, unnoticed by others.
Yeah. O King Rahugana, in the body of a deer, by previous memory, by the power of my previous worship of Krishna, by the power of my previous bhakti, I did my memory did not leave me. That means I still remember that I was King Bharata. I was a great devotee like that. Fearing material association, I wander about alone, incognito. And in due course of time, I gave up the body of deer also. Now I have born as Brahmana boy, and I am fearing the material association. I am wandering about alone. incognito. That's what he says. His worship of Lord Krishna, though failing in the last life, saved him. Fearing material association, I wander about unknown. Unknown to anybody in this world, remembering my past two lives, I am wandering alone. That's what now he's talking about his third birth as Brahmana Bharata. Then finally he says, Tasmannaro Sanga Susanga Jata Jnanasinehyva Vivrukna Moha Harim Tadiha Katana Krutabhyam Labda Smrutiryati Atiparamadvana.
Simply by associating with exalted devotees, anyone can attain perfection of knowledge, and with the sword of knowledge can cut to pieces the illusory association within this material world. Through the association of devotees, one can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam. Thus, one can revive his dormant Krishna consciousness and, sticking to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, return home back to Godhead even in this life.
Yeah. Cutting up illusion by the sword of knowledge arising from detachment from matter and attachment to devotees, and gaining remembrance of the Lord by speaking about and hearing the pastimes of the Lord, a person attains the Lord at the end of samsara. Here he gives a kind of conclusion saying that cutting up illusion by the sword of knowledge, jnana asina, arising from the detachment from matter and attachment to devotees. How can one develop the sword of knowledge? Detachment from matter, attachment to devotees. Asanga shastrena drudena chitva. And gaining remembrance of the Lord, Labdha Smritir, by speaking about and hearing about the Supreme, the pastimes of the Lord, a person attains the Lord at the end of samsara. So, this is the procedure for going back home back to Godhead. I have understood this. That's why I am following this. One should take the weapon of knowledge. What is that weapon of knowledge? Detachment from matter and attachment to devotees. He says that I don't want to deal with the matter. I don't want to deal with the people who are materialistic. That's why I am keeping myself alone. Fearing material association, I wander about alone incognito. So like that. So since I see some devotional qualities in you, I opened my mouth with you. Matlab, I am speaking to you about the pastimes of the Lord. This is the procedure to attain spiritual world, nothing else. By hearing about and speaking about, contemplating upon the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, we understand about the Lord, and hence we remember our connection with the Supreme Lord. And with that remembrance, with that realization, we will go back home back to Godhead. Asanga means detachment from material things. Susanga means attachment to devotees. By these two, one gains the knowledge, which is the sword, which can cut the tree of samsara. With the sword, a person cuts illusion in the form of an elephant and attains the Lord at the end of samsara. The illusion is compared to a huge elephant. Even the elephant may be very huge, but with the sword, one can cut off the huge elephant of samsara and can go back home back to Godhead. So this is what our Brahmana Bharata is kind of after revealing his identity, is telling that what is the weapon to cut the samsara. The weapon is the weapon of knowledge. How to gain the knowledge? Detachment from matter, attachment to spirit, and hear and discuss about the Supreme Lord. This is the only weapon. The weapon has four attributes: detachment from matter, attachment to devotees, hear and speak about the Supreme Lord. It's like that. Hare Krishna. Okay, all of you are able to follow?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There is one confusion. I don't know whether I'll be able to clearly make it verbal of what the confusion is. Here, one thing was said, Prabhuji, that when one comes in contact
with the bhakti activity or bhakti things, immediately he comes with the spiritual thing. So his existence starts becoming spiritual, like that it
Mm.
was mentioned. And
Yes, yes.
it was also mentioned that we means one will not understand how this happens until and unless, because the person's till the person is in material realm, he will not understand how this happens, because this is the completely spiritual thing. So
Mm.
I was wondering, like, whenever we have certain, it is not doubt in the Lord's statements or great devotee statements, but like even that Kapil Dev's teachings, it was there, na, like Devavati says that Shwapachogaryo, that verse is there, that even battering ones, even the Shudras and they just they can be elevated to the great devotees level. So means even though we are doing devotion since maybe some years, or by Krishna's mercy, so it becomes very difficult to understand how this happened, because we see in the devotees also, when there are so many anarthas and things like that, we tend to sometimes try to, okay, this is the problem with him or that is the problem with him. So even though we are doing devotion for so long, we have not entered that spiritual plane. We try to understand things at a material level. So why there is no change in us, even after being in touch with the devotion and spiritual things for so many years?
At least from my experience, I would say this. Externally, we are telling that we are devotees and we are trying our level best to be devotees, but internally, we are still hooked onto matter. When we say we are devotees, then we should remain as devotees. So we cannot be one leg here, one leg there. So that is the problem. So that's why we feel this uncertainty many times. So it will take time. It is not that even when scripture we read that it happens immediately. From the infinite lifetimes point of view, infinite immediately means maybe one lifetime or 1 2 lifetimes. It should take some time. It cannot happen overnight. But from the
Oh,
point of infinity time, it is immediate.
yeah, right. From that perspective, it is
So
immediate.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you for.
So now let us go move on then to the next chapter. So here in the 13th chapter, by describing the forest of material enjoyment, material world, Bharata put the king on the horse of detachment so that the king will cross over it. So now the finally, this is the last chapter of their conversation, 13th chapter, their last chapter of their conversation. Here it says it is said that in the last verse of the previous chapter, he mentioned that cross over the material life, cross over the samsara. What is that path and what is the who is the traveler on the path? This chapter answers. So basically, one can go back to spiritual world traversing the samsara. Matlab, you walk in the samsara and go beyond samsara so that you can go to spiritual world. So now the question is that who is that person supposed to go beyond the samsara and what is the path he should take? So like that. So that will be explained with the help of a story in the 13th chapter. So this is also a big chapter. So apparently here Brahmana Bharata speaking the story to King Rahugana. And Rahugana hears, understands, he expresses his gratitude, and Brahmana Bharata goes on one side, attains liberation. Jada Bharata, no. King Rahugana also goes other side, attains perfection. The story ends there. But this story is being narrated to Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj by Sukadeva Goswami. And Parikshit Maharaj will ask a question at the end of this chapter saying that, so my dear sir, uh, King Rahugana understood the meaning of the story, but I have not understood. Can you please explain the meaning of the story? The meaning of the story will be explained in the next chapter. So that is the connection to next chapter. So here is like a allegorical story. Just like we have heard the allegorical story of Puranjan in the previous canto, here also a merchant who is the traveler, is passing through the forest. A merchant generally passes through the from town to town in order to his business, but by bad fortune he entered into a forest of material existence. Then he goes through a lot of troubles. So that is indicated in this chapter. Brahmana Uvacha. Duratyaya dhvani ajaya niveshito rajastamas sattva vibhakta karma drug aisha sartorta para paribhraman bhavatavim yati na sharma vindati. Read the translation, someone.
Bharata, who had fully realized Brahman, continued, My dear King Rahugana, the living entity wanders on the path of the material world, which is very difficult for him to traverse, and he accepts repeated birth and death. Being captivated by the material world under the influence of the three modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, the living entity can see only the three fruits of activities under the spell of material nature. These fruits are auspicious, inauspicious, and mixed. He thus becomes attached to religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the monistic theory of liberation, that is, merging with the Supreme. He works very hard day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters a forest to acquire some articles to sell later for profit. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world.
Yeah. The merchant who sees only obligation to scriptural actions divided into rajas, tamas, and sattva. So the merchant here, one of the attribute of the merchant is that he sees that obligations described in the scripture are divided according to rajoguna, tamoguna, and sattvaguna. Who, out of ignorance, is fixed on the path of material enjoyment. So basically, whatever scriptural rules and regulations that are given, he sees that okay, these are all sattva-guni activities, rajoguni activities, tamoguni. Utna tak he understands that much only. He does not understand that he need to follow sattva-guna activities so that he can attain perfection, come back to God. That knowledge he does not have because he is fixed on the path of material enjoyment, which is difficult to cross, and who is absorbed in material acquisition while wandering about, comes to the forest of material life, but cannot enjoy happiness. It is actually a metaphorical story. A merchant entering into a forest while doing business is like a conditioned soul who is a sakama karmi, who knows the Vedas, but is only interested in going to heaven and enjoying, or enjoying here or going to heaven and enjoying more. Such kind of person is bound in the samsara, and what kind of troubles he goes through, that is being indicated here. Sartaha is well known as a wealthy merchant. Okay. Medini says, Sarto Vanika Samuhe Syat. Sarta means a gathering of merchants. Sarta can be a single merchant or plural, a gathering of merchants also. All the jivas in this world are like the merchants, interested in material acquisition. Arthaparaha. What merchant want? A businessman want to do business at different places and want to earn money and enjoy. All of us, the conditioned souls also have come to this material world. We want to earn artha so that we can fulfill kama. So we want to follow dharma dictated by Vedas so that we can get artha, so that we can do kama. We can experience kama. That is what is the function of a sakama kami, a sakama karmi. So that is what is indicated. So we are all arthapara. He sees the activities divided into tamas, rajas, and sattva as obligatory because of ignorance on the difficult to cross path of pravruddhi marga. Because the Vedas talk about various activities with the distinction of these are sattva-guni activities, rajoguni activities, tamoguni activities. According to him, the sattva-guni activities give happiness Rajoguni activity, Tamoguni activities may cause bewilderment or difficulty, something like that. You may think, because he has some Vedic understanding, but he is attached to material enjoyment. The explanation of all these items will be given in the next chapter. However, to make understanding easier, some explanation is given here. The shloka talks about the story, the notes will tell what it means. Just like here we are talking about a vanik, a merchant going into the forest. When going from one town to other town, but on the way he entered into a forest. That is like a jiva who is a conditioned soul, being attached to sakama karma, is traveling on the samsara. So it is like that. Yasyam ime san naradeva dasyava sartam vilumpanti punaya kambalat gomaya vo yatra haranti sartikam pramattamavishya yatornavamvrika. Here he says that, O king, in the forest, the six plunderers plunder the merchant. The merchant who had earned a lot of wealth in the city and is going back home, but in the forest, there are six plunderers who took away all his wealth, who has received bad advice. Because the merchant has received a bad advice to go through this forest. As a result of that, he lost all his wealth to the plunderers. In that forest, the jackals enter his house by force and plunder the inattentive merchant, just as wolves steal the sheep. The plunderers are the senses. They plunder the wealth from the jiva, whose intelligence is like a bad chariot driver, kunayakam. Though the wealth is actually meant for serving the Lord, but is used for his enjoyment. So, who guided the jiva into the forest of material existence? Kunayaka, the bad intelligence. The bad intelligence told that dharma, artha, kama are the ultimate goal of life. Do it, do dharma, so that you will get artha, you will get enjoy kama. He is the kunayaka, bad chariot driver. The real wealth is accumulation of Brahman. Brahmani adaya karmani sangam tektva dhananjaya. We need to perform all the activities in order to get the wealth of Brahman, the absolute truth. Instead of that, here the kunayaka, the bad intelligence told that perform dharma, you will get artha and you will enjoy kama. So kama means enjoying the material resources that is done by the senses. We have six senses, the five jnanendriyas and the mind. They are trying to enjoy more and more. They are trying to enjoy the sense objects. That's how a person's true wealth, one's time, one's resources are being enjoyed by the six senses. So it is like that. Because we have the ability in the form of the physical body, we have the time at our disposal, and these two are employed in material sense gratification by the bad advice of the bad driver. So thus, the six senses have plundered our resources, the one's resources, the time and the physical ability, the person's ability. So like that. Wife and sons, who are like the jackals, plunder the merchant who is inattentive to spiritual goals and possesses a treasure of food and clothing. So on one side, six senses are plundering the wealth. On the other side, the wife and children who are always demanding, get this, get that, get this, get that. The man has to work for it. Here, the wife and children are who are materialistic, who are not devoted wife and devoted children, but those who are simply materialistic, who only want the material objects for their sense gratification. In providing their sense gratification, this person has to spend all his time and energy in order to earn wealth and get objects for their enjoyment. They are compared to the jackals. The jackals enter into the sheep yard and they steal the sheep and enjoy. They feast upon them, something like that. That means basically this person will work hard and earn wealth, and they spend the wealth, something like that. Avishya means they enter his heart, which is like a house. Puranam means sheep. So that means this Vanik, this conditioned soul, whose primary goal is to go back home back to Godhead. Instead of that, when he gets wife and children, they enter into his heart. He always think about their well-being and forgetting his own well-being of going back home back to Godhead. Thus he works hard to provide their material comforts. So like that, the condition of this material world is lost from the right track. So like that, he's telling. Hare Krishna, you're able to follow these two examples? How the six plunderers take away his resources, and how the jackals steal away his highly protected sheep ad, something like that.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
प्रभूत वीरुत तृणगुल्म गह्वरे कठोरदंशैर्मसकेरुपधृता क्वचित्तु गन्धर्वपुरम् प्रपश्यति क्वचिश्चासु रयोल्मुखागृहम्. Please read the translation.
In
Forest.
this,
Continue, Mataji.
in this forest, there are dense bowers composed of thickets of bushes, grass, and creepers. In these bowers, the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes, envious people. Sometimes he sees an imaginary palace in the forest, and sometimes he is bewildered by seeing a fleeting fiend or ghost, which appears like a meteor in the sky.
So here he says that in that forest, in his home, what's happening? Afflicted by mosquitoes with harsh biting, in dense bowers of shrubs, grass, vines, he sometimes sees a city in the sky, Gandharva city, Gandharvapuram, and sometimes sees ghosts moving quickly in the sky like a meteor. So what kind of experiences he goes through in a shelter where he is residing in the forest? So like that. In his house, like a bower, abundant in material actions like dense shrubs, he is disturbed by evil men who are like the mosquitoes. Just like we are continuously disturbed by mosquitoes, especially during the rainy season. Now the rainy season is beginning. There are a lot of mosquitoes all around. Similarly, in this material world, we are constantly disturbed by evil men. For no reason, they keep troubling us. The body and house are temporary like the city in the sky. So this person is seeing in the sky a Gandharva city, a dazzling city. That a dazzling city, being looking at that, he becomes amused, and we become amused looking at our body and house, which are that like temporary city in the sky. He sees the city in the sky as if it were real and permanent. And we also look at our body and our house as the permanent thing, as if it will be with us for the rest of eternity. So our human body and our home are compared to the Gandharva city, a illusory city in the sky. Sometimes he sees pichashas who take the form of fire bands and move quickly in the sky. This refers to seeing gold, which he regards as valuable. Sometimes there are pichashas seen in the sky, which appear to be like shining gold, So we also have a lot of gold, which is very much valuable. Nowadays, the gold is about what do you call? The 10 grams is around 60,000 rupees, something like that. Very costly it has become. So we value gold high. But according to Brahmana Bharata, the gold is compared to the Pishashi, the bright Pishashi which appears like a Jugnu once in a while and goes like that. Because the Pichachi, when it haunts us, we are gone. Similarly, we are haunted by the attraction to the gold, we are gone. That's how it is compared to the Pishachi. So, in that way. निवासतो या द्रविणात्मबुद्धिस्ततस्ततो धावति भो अतव्याम् क्वचिच्च वात्योत्थितपांशु धूम्रा दिशो न जानाति रजस्वलाक्षा. Please read.
My dear king, the merchant on the forest path of the material world, his intelligence victimized by whom wealth, relatives, and so forth, runs from one place to another in search of success. Sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of a whirlwind. That is to say, in his lust he is captivated by the beauty of his wife, especially during her menstrual period. Thus his eyes are blinded and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing.
So here it says that, O king, thinking that house, water, and wealth are ease, he runs here and there in the forest, sometimes covered with dirt, raised by a whirlwind, his eyes blinded by dust. He does not know the directions. Thinking that the house and wealth are his own, he runs here and there. Basically, the house, the wealth one accumulate, thinking that this is mine, this is mine. I need to increase this. So he runs here and there, trying to earn more and more. He becomes covered by the impulses of lust because of a woman. This is comparable to being covered by the dust raised by a whirlwind. Just like when a person is moving in the forest, there is whirlwind, so there is a lot of dust and his eyes are closed. That means eyes are closed to the reality. Similarly, a person who is enchanted by the beauty of women becomes indifferent to the reality. Like that. His eyes blinded by lust. He does not know that the devatas of the directions are witness to his actions. So one forgets that one is being witnessed by the devatas. Then he further continues. Hare Krishna are following all these different examples, different analogies, because the meaning is given directly below so that we can correlate with each other what is said and what it means.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Adrishyajilli Swanakarnashula Ulukavagbirvetitantaratma Apunyavrikshan Shrayate Kshudardito Marichito Yani Abhidavati Kvachit. Here he says, when the mind is disturbed by the sounds of owls in the night time when he's sleeping, the owls making a lot of sound, his mind is getting disturbed. And the piercing cries of invisible crickets. The crickets are there inside the home only. Afflicted by hunger, he takes shelter of the impious trees. And sometimes he runs after a mirage of water. There are two things. He is constantly disturbed by the sounds of owls from outside and from the sounds of the crickets from inside the home, and is also afflicted by hunger and thirst. In order to fulfill his hunger and thirst, he takes shelter of impious trees, which gives poisonous fruits. And he looks at a mirage, thinking that his water source is there, and he runs after the mirage to get the water to quench his thirst, something like that. His ears are pierced by the sharp language of detested speakers. He does not see. That means, so he is disturbed by the sounds of words means we are disturbed by the rumors spread by the people outside. We don't know who is spreading the rumors, false rumors, but the rumors are spreading everywhere, and we are disturbed by that. This is like the sounds of the crickets. Okay, sounds of the crickets are, the cricket is within our bed only. It keeps making noise. We can't understand where it is, but it is keep coming. It is keep disturbing it. His mind is afflicted by the words of distrusted speakers. He can see who are like the owls. Okay, crickets cannot be seen and owls can be seen. So the false rumors are the words of the crickets. Even uh, the people who criticize us in front of us, they are like the owls. He goes to sinful people who are like the impious trees to beg. When he is feeling hunger and thirst, he takes shelter of the sinful people in order to fulfill one's hunger and thirst. Even the shade of shelter of such person is a cause of sin. Sometimes he begs from the uncharitable person who give nothing. They are like the mirages of water. So, in need, we may take shelter of sometimes some sinful people. Coming into their shade itself is a sin. Then what to speak of taking favor for them? And sometimes we take shelter of some misers who does not want to give anything in return. That is like taking shelter of a mirage. So like that. So I mean, when I was preparing for this, I understood like that. So it is not like that we are taking charity from them, but for our livelihood, we work for someone who is sinful. Something like that. We can think of like this. This particular line can be treated like that. For our survival, we work for someone who is sinful, but as a result, we are committing sin by serving a sinful master. So something like that. क्वचिद् वितोया सरितोऽपि याति परस्परं चालसते निरन्दा आसाद्य दावं क्वचिदग्नितापो तप्तो निर्विद्यते क्वाच यक्षैर्वृतासु. Here he says that sometimes the merchant jumps in waterless rivers because he was searching for the mirage and thinks that there is water. So with the hope of getting water, he jumps into that waterless river. And sometimes without food, he desires food from the relatives. Sometimes encountering a forest fire, he becomes burnt by the fire. And when his wealth is stolen by yakshas, he falls into despair. So many things are mentioned here. He becomes immediately unhappy by breaking his limbs when he jumps into a waterless river but gets no water or no food. This means he goes to atheists who give misery in this and in the next world. So, with a desire to get real happiness, one takes shelter of atheists. In the association of atheists, one does sinful activities. As a result of that, one neither experiences happiness in this life nor experiences happiness in the next life. So, something like that. And then, looking for food, he desires it from others. Understanding that this from the atheist is not getting anything, any real happiness, he looks for the relatives. He comes to a house which gives suffering like a forest fire. So he looking for here and there, but eventually he landed in the house which is caught fire. He becomes despondent, burned by the fire of lamentation. So it's like that. Even when he takes somebody's shelter, they themselves are in misery and they only can give misery to the new person also. When a person in misery can't offer happiness to someone who has come to take their shelter, whatever one has, one can only give that much only. So basically, searching for happiness here and there. He goes to atheists, they only give misery. He goes to others. They also give misery because they themselves are in miserable condition. Thus, he whose wealth, dear like life, has been stolen by kings who are like the Yakshas and Rakshasas, becomes despondent thinking, how unfortunate I am without wealth. A person who has wealth, hard-earned wealth, supposed to pay taxes. The king who was like the Yakshas and Rakshasas takes away the wealth of a merchant in the form of taxes and so many other things like that. So this is how one after the other, the different examples, which are nothing but different things that we come across in this world, are indicated as the merchant is traveling in the forest, one after the other. Any questions?
No.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, from the previous chapter, there is some question. Can I ask now? Or
What was that?
yeah, I'll just a minute. Uh, yeah. Prabhuji, here it is. This is from chapter number 11, verse 10. In the purport, it says that the mind is the controller of the five knowledge acquiring senses and the five working senses. So I didn't understand like how mind controls the working senses, like evacuation and everything. Like it is not the voluntary activities.
Hmm. So now it is 8 o'clock. Are you hungry?
Yeah,
So if you are really hungry, what you will do?
try to have prasad.
How that is happening?
Voluntary activity.
No,
Like
not
means
voluntary. You are hungry, but your mind will say that I am hungry, enough is enough, bahut ho gaya, class band karo, I need to eat now. So then the mind instructs the karmendriyas. Even though class might be going on, you can keep the class in the mute or you can keep the class in the speaker and whatever it is. You can the mind instruct the karmendriyas, the entire karmendriyas in the body, telling that do the needful. The body gets up, the legs walks, the hands collect the plate. One hand the plate is holding and one hand serving the rice, dal, sabji, whatever is there in the kitchen. And again you come back, sit on the dining table or wherever the laptop is there, and you listen the class with ears and see the slides with the eyes and eat the prasadam with the hands. The karmendris are doing the activity.
okay,
The mind expresses the desire, the karmendra is supposed to follow. The boss says, servant follows.
okay,
Simple.
okay. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Like means all the karmendriyas may not be like that, but
Nah, like it depends on the activity to activity. Now the activity
yeah,
is
yeah,
eating. So what is intention to that? So in that way.
yeah. Okay, okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So in the next verse, he says, Surairutasva kvachanirvinna cheta Sochan vimuhyan upayati kashmalam Kvachitcha gandharvapuram pravishta Pramodate nirvrutan muhurtam. Here he says that with his possessions stolen by enemies, sometimes with depressed heart and lamentation, in great bewilderment, he faints. Basically, he's going to different people. He goes to atheists, he goes to false gurus, this guru, that guru. They simply take away his wealth, and ultimately, he is looking for happiness, but the people are taking away his wealth. The kings are taking in the wealth in the form of charities, I mean, in the form of what you can say, taxes. The other so called gurus, they are taking his wealth in the form of charities. He is fainting, ultimately. Sometimes entering an imaginary city, he enjoys for a moment as if fully satisfied. It means having his desires fulfilled in terms of sons, wife, wealth, and power. is like entering an imaginary city, Gandharva, imaginary Gandharva city. So, what is the temporary happiness experiencing here? Having a wife, having children, interacting with them, that is a temporary happiness. But other than that, everywhere is only experiencing unhappiness because others are only stealing away his wealth by promising that they will give you happiness. Jalan kvachit kantakak karkarangrir nagarurukshur vimanai vaste pade pade abhyantara vaihinardita kautumbika krudyati vaijanaya. Here he says, his feet become pierced by thorns. As he was wandering here and there, the feet are pierced by thorns. And he wanders about, as he wanders about, wanting to climb a hill, he becomes disappointed step by step. Pained by the fire of digestion, living with his family, he becomes angry at his family members. वो तो है जब अंगर में है तो क्रोध आते हैं. Desiring to climb a high mountain means desiring fame by marrying his daughters and sons. So what happens? Wanting to climb a hill, he becomes disappointed step by step. Desiring to do this, he becomes depressed, thinking, how can I accomplish this? In order to get the children married, it is a big headache on the parents. Even after their marriage, there is another headache whether they will live happily in their family life. So, like that. His feet becomes cut by thorns because he has no shoes. This indicates that he becomes defeated by obstacles because he has no assistance. He has to do everything alone in order to maintain the family, taking care of his children, getting married, and all the other things. As for this, he has to run here and there. As a result of that, his feet are pierced by thorns, etc. The fire within is the fire of digestion. But in normal day-to-day life, when there is a fire of digestion, we become angry with our surrounding people, with our family members. So it's like that. So like that, one after the other, different examples are mentioned. Kvachin jagarahino jano navai kinchet vipine pavidha dashtasmasete kvachadanda shukair andondakupe patitastamishre. Here it is said that sometimes he is swallowed by the python and loses consciousness. Sometimes not woken up by friends. He is bitten by a snake in the forest while he sleeps. Sometimes in blindness, he falls into a dark blind well. What it means? Swallowed by a python means he goes to deep sleep. Not woken up by friends. He is afflicted by evil persons like snakes. That means sometimes he becomes indifferent to one's duties. He says, "Oh no, no, बहुत हो गया. मैं कुछ नहीं करूँगा, कुछ नहीं करूँगा. Please leave me alone," like that. But his family members, friends keep reminding him, "No, no, you are a responsible person. You need to take the responsibility." But what happens in that times? The evil persons like snakes will bite him, will trouble him. Sometimes, being blind without proper discrimination, what is what? He falls into illusion, like a blind well covered by darkness, filled by misery. Without understanding what to do, what not to do, or sometimes we'll do bad things. As a result of that, we experience misery, like that. So basically, we receive good advice of going back to God only in the association of devotees. All other peoples may give so many advices. They may appear to be so brilliant, but from the point of view of going back to Godhead, they are all miserable suggestions. So that is the indicated thing here. So this is the last verse for today. We'll close here with this verse. Karismachit kshudra rakshan vinimshan तन्मक्षिका बेर्व्यतितो विमाना Tatrati pradilabdamano balad vilumpati atatam tatonye. Here it is said that sometimes searching for a little honey, he is bitten by bees, because the honey bees store honey in a honeycomb. If we want to get honey, we need to chew away the honey bees. By the way, we get beaten up by the honeys. Discarded, he finally obtains it with great difficulty, but by force, others steal it from him. The insignificant honey is another person's wife. He suffers, discarded by the husband and brothers, like bee biting. Somebody who is looking for happiness through a paramour, when it is understood, the relatives will come and beat him left and right. So that is like looking for a honey being stored by the honeybees, because the honey belongs to honeybees. If we unrighteously try to take it, the honeybees may sting us. If by great effort, by spending a lot of money, if one obtains the woman and enjoys her, someone else steals her. So, okay, by showing money, one may get other man's wife, but somebody else who can pay more money, he will go to that person. So, like that. Then again, he spends money to get another woman, and someone else steal her away. So, it is like that. So, this is how even a person want to get happiness in this material world. That happiness does not last long with one. Somebody else will take away that by force in due course of time. Like that, one ends up experiencing misery after misery only in this material world. This is the nature of the forest of material existence. Hare Krishna. So with this, we'll stop here for today. I'll go for our evening program here. Sir might be giving class. It has started already. I'll just take part in that. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you very
request all of you to go through the same so that you can follow. In the next chapter, everything will be repeated again. That's why I'm going in a fast pace. That time again the same story will be repeated. So we'll discuss that time. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथरा श्रीमद्
Hare
भागवतम
Krishna.
की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव भक्त बंद की जय.